my name is Tina, I'm head of design of Victoria Designs, and we have another crafting kit for you, the Fall Foliage Crafting Printables Kit. In this kit there are 24 journal pages in 3 sizes, 20 full papers and 15 sheets with embellishments. In this video Kathleen will show you how she made from scratch the beautiful cover and the folio that goes in it and the small journal as well. Kathleen has made even more projects with the kit. You can check them out on her channel, the link is below. Kathleen has her own YouTube channel where she shows how to make beautiful shabby junk journals from scratch. If you like that, hop on over and pay her a visit. And if you would like to make this tutorial with the printables of our Fall Foliage kit, you can find more information about the kit below. And now I'm going to give the word to Kathleen. Enjoy!
Hi everyone, it's Kathleen. I'm happy to be here today sharing a project that I have designed for Victoria Designs using their Fall Foliage Crafting Printables journal kit. So we are going to create this journal from scratch. We are using file folders, 2 file folders for the outside cover, which will be covered with Tim Holtz fabric. Inside these foldable flaps, on the left-hand side will be a removable folio, and on the right-hand side will be a removable writing journal. Let's get started. 2 file folders, like this. Here in Canada, we have different lengths of file folders and different configuration of file folders. Some tabs are on the top and some are on the sides. I've chosen a file folder that I would like with a side tab. This is a long file folder that I will be cutting down. The final measurement that we need for a file folder, we need to make sure that your file folder is 9.5 inches tall by 12 inches wide. We need a scoreboard to make things easier, and I use a Martha Stewart score pal, and I want to take my tabbed portion of my file folder and put it along the left side, and that's where I'm going to start to do my measuring from. My fold down flap is going to be 4.5 inches wide, so I'm going to score at the 4.5 inch mark. I would like a 1/2 inch spine, so I'm going to score at 4 3/4 and then at 5 inches. That will give me a 1/2 inch spine. Inside, I would like 4.5 inches for my flap to fold down inward on itself. So that brings me to the 9.5 inch mark and score. I would like a spine for my totally embellished journal to be 1.5 inches. So I'm going to go to the 11 inch mark. Every 1/4 inch I'm going to score. This will give me a perforation on which to fold my spine to give a nice curved spine. I'm going to leave myself 1 inch at the end, which brings me to the 12 inch mark, to secure the 2 file folders together. So you're going to do that with 1 file folder, and then you're also going to do it with the second file folder. Exactly the same, making sure that your tab portion is on the left-hand side, then scoring at those same measurements. 4.5, 5 inches, 9.5, 11, every 1/4 inch for the large spine, again, and every 1/4 inch in this 1/2 inch spine. We left off at the 11 inch, and we're going to leave ourselves an extra 1 inch to attach the two file folders together. So we are going to take a pair of scissors. After I put this scoreboard away, we are going to take a pair of scissors and trim off this excess. We can save this excess file folder portion to use in our journal if we need some heavier cardstock. So we did that one, and let's trim this one as well. You can never have too large of a spine, and if it is scored at every 1/4 inch, it gives a nice rounded spine, so it can shrink down if you have fewer pages, or it can extend if you have larger pages, more pages inside. So I would like, right now you can see that both of my file folders, I have the tabbed ends on the same side. I want to have a smooth finish on the outside, and the shorter version of my file folder on the inside. So this is my large spine. Let's fold down the outer two scores so we can see our 1.5 inch clearly. Fold the outer two lines of our 1/2 inch spine, and look at this file folder. We want to have the tab on the left-hand side, but we want to have what I'm going to call the smooth portion on the outside and the shorter portion on the inside. So again, we are going to fold on the two outer spine marks. So you have a 1/2 inch spine for the fold down flap. Then you have the 1.5 inch spine for the actual journal. So I'm going to lay, just make sure I'm in screen. I have my score marks for the 1.5 inch spine, and I'm going to lay these. This is my spine, 1.5 inches. So is that. I'm going to lay it one on top of the other, and I'm going to secure my ends with some alligator clips just to help me with my sewing. And then I'm going to see if my lines line up at the bottom. So we're extending the file folder to give us the two flaps. So I'm going to take, I wanted to make sure I folded this out of the way so it curves in my sewing machine. I'm going to tuck it in my sewing machine, start at the edge. I'm going to sew straight, back up, and sew straight again, all the way down and back up. I'm going to sew on one outside of the spine score mark, and I'm going to sew along the second, or well, on the two outside. So the first spine mark and the last spine mark, which is the score, the first score line and the last score line. I'm going to sew it, and I'm going to do the same thing for this little portion of our flip out. You'll more easily see it on this one, which I have already sewn for you. So let's put away this one that needs to be sewn. And I have sewn it already. So I've taken it to the sewing machine, and our score, 1 inch score section of our curved spine, we've sewn along the outer edge and the other outer edge. we've done the same along this narrow portion, which gives us a nice folded left flap. We've sewed along the two outer scored portions to give us a 1/2 inch section on each end for room for our folio and our writing journal to grow. And then we have a wonderful 1.5 inch spine. And let's give it a nice fold. We have a nice curved spine and a large spine and two little secondary spines. I have also sewn down these little flaps, and the flaps I'll bring back from here. These are the two portions that where the two file folders meet, and one comes to an end over here and one comes to an end on this side. So we've just sewn that one down, turned it over, and sewn that one down. I feel more secure sewing my cover than I do gluing it. So I use a sewing machine because I like to sew. If you don't have a sewing machine, use a very strong glue like Fabri-Tac or a very strong tacky glue. So this is our cover. It's nice and strong. It fits nice in our hands because it's a curved spine and we have room to grow in the two sections. So I'd like to cover the outside cover with fabric. And I have pre-torn this piece of fabric and I tore it to, let's see, it should come, it's hard working around this little camera mount that I have. And I've extended the fabric just about maybe 1/4 of an inch across all edges, the top, the bottom, and I think the side, when I tore it tore just a hair smaller. So the sides of my fabric, you can't see everything, let's just work on this one side here. The fabric extends 1/4 of an inch taller than the file folder and 1/4 of an inch lower than the file folder. And it's going to come right to the edge of this file folder. And we're going to see this manila portion. I'm going to use a glue stick to temporarily hold down my fabric before I take it to the sewing machine and sew. So right now I am just attaching a glue stick to the file folder, and I will be sewing all the way around. So I need to make sure that I'm extended 1/4 of an inch higher than the file folder and 1/4 of an inch lower than the file folder. Now I'm going to pull my fabric and I'm going to work across the file folder, one little section at a time. Yes, I'm going to put it in the spine section and glue, and I'm also going to put glue all throughout each section, one section at a time, and pull the fabric all the way across to make sure it is smooth. I'm going to use one of my cast iron bunny rabbits to help me hold that. And I'm just smoothing it with my hand. And where did we leave off? Right here. And you keep doing one section at a time until we get the fabric laid down on the outside cover. I'm going to bring it over so you can see what I'm doing. Laying the fabric down and I'm pulling it. There we are. And we're still in the screen. I'm going to have to move my cover over because the cover is almost, well, it is out of screen for the whole portion. So we have to work in sections. And let's just bring it over slightly. And we're going to pull. Down the spine and across the back of the last back panel. The stitching adds decoration as well as strength to the cover. And you want to make sure that you don't have any air bubbles. Okay, that's good. Now where is my, I'm just going to take a bone folder and make sure that I work out all the air bubbles. So this is nice. I like how this turned out. So when it's, I don't want to fold it because it'll pull. If I pull it, it pulls the fabric away from the exact edge, but it's going to look gorgeous when it's done. Love all the pattern that's on here. So we're going to do the exact same thing on the inside. Making sure there's no air bubbles. And this is the inside. The inside will have another panel of fabric, the same size, that will sit like this. So I am going to do the exact same thing by applying some glue, a glue stick, because it's just going to temporarily hold this in place while I place it down, and then we're going to go to the sewing machine. Whoops. Oh, wow. Look at how soft my glue is. Oh, my goodness. Holy. Oh, boy. I got lots of glue in there. I shouldn't be running my glue stick that direction, obviously. Okay. Let's take some of that glue back into my dispenser here. And let's work upwards. Boy, oh boy, is that ever soft. Usually you have to work fairly quickly with a glue stick, and I do not want it to be gobbledygook in any way. So I'm just going to make sure it's all spread out nice and smooth, and I'm going to lay down this fabric. Okay, now I have to make sure I pull this. Perfect. And we just continue straight across the file folder like we did on the front cover, except now we're just doing it along the back. The glue stick will allow us time to place the fabric. It won't add bulk, and it'll make it nice and smooth while we sew it onto the file folder. These colors really match the fall kit, and I was happy that I had just this little leftover bit to use for this project. I like to use fabric and lace trims in my projects because I absolutely love snippets, and I love a fully decorated journal. I'm going to leave not a completely naked, because I can't do that, but I will leave lots of room to write in the writing journal that we have in here, and I will also leave lots of room in the main part of the decorative journal for you to create on as well. I'll be using a variety of papers, watercolor papers, mixed media papers, and sketch papers. See, if you didn't place it right down exactly, you can pull it back and reposition your fabric. So that's nice. I like how the file folder is sticking out of one edge, and we are good. The next step is to take this to the sewing machine and stitch around. You're going to be stitching on the right side on the front of your cover, and I usually start at the bottom and I sew all the way around the file folder, and I do a second curved stitch. I call it wonky stitching. I like it, just a silly stitch. Then I'm going to turn and I'm going to feel where my creases are, and in the 1/2 inch section of the spine, I'm going to sew straight down the middle with the sewing machine. I'm going to find my 1.5 inch section of my spine, and I'm going to sew down the center of that, and I'm going to find this last 1/2 inch spine and sew down the center of that too. In the next video, or actually it may be all combined into one. The next time you see me, it'll be all sewn together. Now that the cover is sewn, this is what it looks like. The 2 file folders sewn together. You can see the beautiful stitching all the way around the outside cover, down the center of the first fold-in portion, sewn down the second sewn-in portion, and down the center of our journal. The inside looks beautiful with the 2 file folder edges sticking out, and I'm going to fold it up for now because this journal is worked in stages. This is the planning of the cover, the wrap cover. I do a slow stitched, or hand stitched, actually not slow stitched, a hand stitched wrap I'm going to attach to this. And for right now, I'm just going to put it away, and we will work on a matching writing journal that will go in the right hand portion of our journal. I'm going to put this on the side, or to the side. I have torn fabric hinges, strips. The strips are 2.5 inches wide by whatever length of fabric I had. This is a cotton fabric. It has tiny little brown flecks in it that I will be using in the journal, as well as I tore some of the Tim Holtz fabric that we are working with into the same width of strips that we're going to be using, 2.5 inches. Put those aside, and let's start working on our writing journal. The writing journal, I wanted to use the same Tim Holtz fabric on the outside, as well as the beautiful papers from the Fall Foliage kit on the outside and inside covers. We're going to put that to the side for right now, so I can show you that we need this is the envelope that we are going to be folding for our writing journal. It is 9 inches tall by 12 inches long. So we are going to take our score pal. We're going to take this is a scoring tool, and we're gonna line up the envelope on the left-hand side and to the top, hold it in place, and we are going to go over to the 2.5 inch mark and score, 6 inch, score, 6 1/4, 6 1/2, 10 1/2. Then we are going to fold along each of these score lines so there are nice crisp folds. That is going to give us a 1/2 inch rounded curved spine for the writing journal, but this outer flap we are going to bend towards the front. So our journal cover right now looks like this, and it will have a curved 1/2 inch spine, which will allow us movement and to be able to hold the innards of our pages inside. I have laid out the papers and the fabrics, how I intend to show you how to create it. This is the inside of the papers. I'll show you how to do this in a moment, but it's quite thick now because of this paper clip, but we are going to stick our signature in here and it'll be a beautiful journal. I'm going to place this on the side for now, and we will gather this together in a moment. I would like to take our papers. This is one paper from the Fall Foliage journaling kit that we are going to use. I printed it at the full size, and I used the edge of my mat. I place the paper on the edge of my mat and I just tear it off on the edge of my desk. So I've tore all the white portions of this paper off, and we are going to, this is the same envelope, I just have a different color of envelope. We're going to use this one. It's folded exactly the same way, and we have 2 pieces of fabric. I just went by the design on the fabric. So for this larger piece, the larger piece of fabric will be, this is the front of our journal. I'm going to be turning it over this way, and the piece of fabric will be starting on the outside and wrapping around to the front. But remember, we have this little flap, so that's what will be glued down, and I always like to explain what I'm doing before I actually glue it down. This is a piece of paper from the journal collection that we are also going to glue down, and on the inside, the piece of fabric like this. And then we are going to be adding some beautiful pieces to the journal to decorate the cover, like this. So we are going to need this ephemera image from the kit and this ephemera image from the kit. So I'm going to put those, these are to make our beautiful little book plate for the journal. So I'll give you measurements for these pieces. I said this was a 9 by 12 inch envelope. I want to close this envelope because we're not having any pockets. We're just going to be gluing it shut. I always use my glue stick for this because I sew on my sewing machine as well. So I use a glue stick and I sew on the sewing machine. So I'm sorry, not this flap. I put some glue on the inside to glue the inside shut, and we're adding glue to that first 10.5 inch score portion that we just did. And we are going to glue this whole extra part of the envelope closed. So when we bring this out to our measuring mat, we still have the 2.5, the 6, and it's actually the 6 1/4 that's the center of the spine. So let's just fold that to the 6 1/4 portion. And the 2.5 portion folds down like this. So we want to take this piece of fabric that I have I tore the edges. Let's start with the 2 edges. And I just extended my fabric 1/4 of an inch taller than my envelope and 1/4 of an inch longer than the envelope. And I tore the strip, and I need to measure for the inside. So let's go. It will be like this on our envelope. So when I open it up, it'll be like this. So I didn't bring the fabric right up to the score line because I wanted to give some room for this flap to fold down. So this piece of fabric, when you lay it down, measures, mine measures 9.5 inches tall by 8 inches wide. So now I'm going to place this, make sure that I'm going to be gluing it on the correct portion. I know that my journal is going to sit like this. It's right side up, this fabric. And I'm going to open up my envelope. You have the 1/4 of an inch all the way around. And it's going to be like this. I'm going to be gluing the fabric onto the envelope, and then I'll be sewing it later. So right now, I just want to make sure that it is 1/4 of an inch all the way around. I'm going to fold this back to my middle score mark, and I'm going to add glue, a glue stick. So the glue stick will gently have this envelope stick to the fabric and hold it in place for us to stitch. So I think I might have moved it slightly. Let's 1/4 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch. Okay. Let's turn it over and let's see if it's straight. I'm going to take let's take the flatter one. I'm going to take this brayer and just make sure that the air bubbles are out, which they are. Now I'm going to apply glue all across this portion up to here. I know it's not going to be going quite up to that fold mark, so we are going to apply some glue stick to make it stick and hold it before we take it to sew. Let's make sure that it's nice and even. Yes, we have the same distance all the way around, which is nice. And let's make sure that this fabric is straight. I iron the fabric to make sure it was nice and straight, but I do like a frayed edge all the way around. And we have it like this. Let's turn around. I wanted my glue to set a little bit before I go on the sewing machine. So on this side, let's actually see how this is going to be. This is the front of our journal, just like this. This piece of paper from the kit is, I made the paper, I tore off the white edge, and I wanted to make sure that this paper was just as high as my fabric. So if you have to trim off a little bit along the edge, please do. So here, we're not going to see this portion. This portion will be glued down and attached. So right now, I just want to make sure that I know that I want to place my piece of paper on this flap. I'm going to hold it, open it up, and lay it flat because I want that same 1/4 of an inch extending all the way around. And if I look there and there, it's not quite. I just want to make sure that it's exactly even. Still a little bit larger at the bottom. Okay, here we have it. So let's go with glue on this outer portion of the envelope, and I'm going to lay it down. We're going to turn it this way, and we are going to, where does it go to? Up to there. We're just going to do, so about 1/4 of an inch up to there. So let's just add a little bit of glue and work our way down. I'm just continuing to wrap this paper around the envelope. On the inside front cover. This is going to be a writing journal that will be removable from the right-hand side of the journal. Okay. This is looking very pretty. Very nice. Okay, and this portion, just to get our bearings straight, this is the front of the journal. This piece of fabric will sit just in here, and this fabric measures, it's the same height as this outside fabric, which is 9 1/4 inches tall and about 5 1/2 inches wide. There, it's going to sit just like that. So I'm going to I really like how that looks. I'm going to put my hand down. I'm trying to do this with one hand, which may or may not be possible. Okay, and I moved that. Shoot. Okay. Because I moved it, I'm going to place it down again. Okay. And I'm just going to place a glue stick to temporarily hold on this fabric so I can take it to the sewing machine. So right now I'm just gluing gluing the craft envelope, making sure that they all line up all the way around, and they do. Bend this back. So how far does that go? I'm going to use my mat. I like to work on a mat because I can use lines on here to tell me where my glue is going to stop. So for me, I can see I have to glue here. And I'm going to place this fabric. I really like how that looks. So the envelope, the glue on both sides, and the fabric will make this nice and sturdy. Okay, I do know that I will be going all the way around singly and doubly. And my second double stitch is a little bit curved. So let's see what I want to do with this. I do want to take it to the sewing machine and sew it on. Okay, so what I want to do first is I will be taking this to the sewing machine, and I'll be starting in the bottom corner, and I sew one time on the actual envelope part. So I'm sewing on the envelope all the way around, and then I go a little bit curved all the way around, just like the front cover. I will also be sewing down that center, because there's 1, 2, 3 score lines. We're going to sew down the center score line to give us a nice crisp fold for our spine. So I have to do that before I can attach this on. This here, let's have a look and see. This has I'm going to say 1, 2, 3 straighter edge, and this has a little bit more jaggedy. I like that jaggedy edge, so I want the jaggedy edge to be on the left-hand side. So let's see if I want to place this down here first. Okay, I know now I want to sew around here and place it down. I want to sew these two pieces and place it down on the inside. Will I see that? I know this paper is going to line up with the edge of the cover. Like that. I do want to see this poking out underneath. Okay, this one has to be stitched, so this has to be stitched separately. So with this image from the ephemera kit, I took a piece of this unbleached cotton with the little brown flecks. I just tore a piece of fabric so it was 1/4 of an inch larger than my image. I also had this extra bit of cheesecloth, and I'm going to say just about the same size. It looks like it extends just a little bit because it's not cut straight. So it can be cut just a little bit larger, the cheesecloth, and I just tilt it at an angle. So instead of being one on top of each other, I'm going to tilt it, have the top one tilted slightly. So I go from diagonal to diagonal. I pull and I make sure that the diagonals fit. And then I'm pulling these guys down, the other two corners down. So I guess the better way of describing it is, if it sits on top, I slightly turn it. Slightly turn it. Let's add a little bit of glue to just tack it down. I Okay, a little bit of glue. The glue stick just holds it down. And I want to add a little bit of glue to hold the center portion down. And I want to center, I'm centering the image with the bottom, so it's exactly the same. It's centered within it. I'm not tilting it. I am just going exactly center. It's the middle cheesecloth that is tilted. So I'm going to take this image to the sewing machine, and I'm going to double stitch all the way around here. I'm going to take this, excuse me, for decoration. I'm going to double stitch all the way around here. I'm going to go to the sewing machine and double stitch all the way around the envelope 2 times. Once down the center, and I'll be back. Okay, now that we have stitched all the way around the envelope to give decoration to the envelope, down the center. Actually, let's open it up. This is how it's going to sit. When we open it up, we have stitched all the way around twice, and we've stitched down the center. That's the inside of the journal. We are going to finish doing the cover. We have sewn around this beautiful frame twice, and we are going to place it. I'm going to leave this 1-inch square in the bottom left corner, and I am going to take I use Weld Bond glue. I'm here in Canada. Any kind of strong tacky glue will work. And I am going to place my tacky glue on my stitching, and then inside. And this, you just want to glue that sticks really well and is not going to come off. I'm going to take my tweezers and, oh, I should have, I'm going to use my grid again so I know where the 1-inch mark is. 1 inch and 1 inch, so I know how high to place this up. It will stick nice on here. So I want a layered look on the front. That's why I'm doing this. And we have stitched our beautiful ephemera image onto the cheesecloth and to the cotton. Double stitched all the way around, and it's going to, where is it going to sit? I want to line up my image with the edge of the cover, and I want to, this is 1 inch, I want to leave 1 inch from the corner of my image here. So it's going to sit like that when it is glued. My lines sit very nice. Okay, we are going to attach glue only. Okay, are we in frame? I'm going to attach glue just on the inside of that sewing portion, because I like my fabrics to be flowing. Actually, when I do my snippets, you'll see how that is. So my image, I'm going to place down my cover and use that point here, give myself 1 inch, line up the edge, and it looks like my stitching line lines up beautifully, and just place that down. Love the way that looks. The images are gorgeous. Very, very pretty. Okay, I have chosen papers to put in here. I like my pages staggered. I love visual interest. So I know these will fit inside here. So let's see what kind of papers we have. I'm going to put that up there. And the very first thing is I wanted to use one of the digitals, and I'm using this image, and after I tore all the edges off, this page measures 9 inches wide by 7 inches tall. And I absolutely love how it looks like it's torn pages. I have folded this piece of paper in half and made a crease. I have torn a piece of the the fabric hinge. The fabric hinge is 2.5 inches wide by the height of our journal, the outside of the journal. And that is 9.5 inches tall. So I've used a glue stick and I've glued that fabric onto the center of the page, just like that. And you'll see that I folded it down somewhat. So what is the somewhat? Let's see where our page is. Let's open it up. Fits 9.5 inches wide when it's folded in half. That comes to the 4.5 inch mark, 4.5. So this first bit, I wanted to see this fabric hinge. So this little portion that is folded backwards is 2 inches wide. And this little portion that's folded backwards is 2 inches wide. 2 inches, the center of the page, and then from the edge, 2 inches folded to the center of the page. So it's like this. I will be taking this to the sewing machine, and I always double stitch my fabric hinge onto my paper. So for right now, let's close this by adding a line of glue and just tacking it on. Oops, I feel some glue. I do. And we don't need that little ridge there. So add a line of glue and place it down. A line of glue along the paper, close to the hinge, and lay it down. It's like our cover page to our writing journal. So again, I'm going to be double stitching my hinge on. So that's the first page that goes inside here. I have a whole bunch of different size papers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different types and sizes of paper for our writing journal. So this first one, okay, how many pages do I have of each? 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so forth. So it takes me a while to see how it looks to my eye, and I like how it looks. So I'm just going to share with you the sizes of these pages. And this came from a spiral notebook that was only, well, how wide is this? Let's turn it to where it's going to sit like this in our signature. So let's see how wide this is. Can we see the measurement? Yes, you can. So on my mat, I see 7 inches across, and this page just happens to be 4.25 inches tall. So, and I tore both sides. I like to not fold it in half. I like to bring it up and crease. So not horizontal, I bring it up and crease. The next page, our next piece of paper that I have chosen came out of a notebook. This is the torn edge. These are the 3 straight edges. This just happens to be 5 inches by 7 inches. And instead of folding it right in half, I go down for this next page and fold it. We're going to be altering these, but to keep the measurements for you, I'm going to take these apart and give you the measurements. This was craft colored lined paper in a coil notebook. I took the coil out and was left with this. It measures 5 inches by 7 inches, and we alternate. I alternate going down, up, down, up, down, up. So this time, instead of not exactly in half, I go up and fold. I just wanted to tell you as well that I'm going to call this a lined sheet, even though it's dots. So one sheet that I have is lined, plain, lined, plain, lined, plain, lined, and plain. That also gives a beautiful flow to your journal. So the next page that we're measuring also came out of a notebook. This one is coffee dyed. There's a little bee just happened to be on that piece of paper, and it is 6 inches by 8 inches. And this time, instead of going straight across, folding it in half, I go down. And it's about an inch I go down. Not go down an inch, go out an inch. Go out an inch and then fold it. So you're just alternating the crease, positioning your paper up and crease. Next one is down and crease. This one is up and crease, and it is also from a notebook. And it measures about 5.5 by maybe 8 1/4 inches. And instead of going across straight in half, I'm going to go up and fold. The next one is coffee dyed paper that is 5.5 inches by 8 1/4 inches. So instead of going straight, not across, we're going to go down and fold. Next one is lined papers from a torn book that have been coffee dyed, 6.5 by 8.5. This time we're going to go not right in half, we're going to go up. So you alternate a fold up, down, up, down. This time it's up. And this next one will be going down. And it is a large piece of paper that was torn in half. And these are 7 inches by 8.5. And instead of going right together, we go down and place a fold. So now we are going to I want to alternate all of the pages. I don't want to have 3 of the same page, then 3 of the next page. I'm going to be separating these into 3 groupings. So for me, what that means is, let's start with the first one. And there are 3 sheets here. So let's just go, am I on camera here? I want to place them. 1, 2, and 3. I take my next piece of paper and I just tuck them in. Take my next piece of paper Oh, I did a wrong thing. Paste, they always go on the inside. It's late in the day here. Inside, inside. The next piece of paper. And they go on the inside. On the inside. And the inside. Take the next 3 pieces of paper. And they increasingly get larger, the pieces of paper. You put them in the center. In the center. And in the center. The next piece of 3 groupings. So that's how you get the staggered look, is by layering them smallest to largest within each other. And the next one in the center. In the center. Center. And the last one. Center. Center and center. So we, sometimes my thumbs just don't work. Okay, I want to make sure that these are exactly centered. Like a beautiful coffee staining. Okay, so that's perfectly centered. And let's work our way this way. Center it. I'm always lining it up in the center and moving it up and down to make sure it's centered. Okay. And center. 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 Center, center. Center, center, and center. There we are. Love the way that looks. Love the staggered edges. I just really like how that looks. This signature cover. I have to stitch this on the sewing machine before I can sew in my signature. And also what I like to do in my journals is, in my writing journals, on the plain sheets of paper, I like to straddle a piece of the straddle and embellishment over the side of the page, or just add a little tab. So we will be doing that. So this is your base page. They will get tucked in here, and look at how beautiful that is. We are going to use a 3-hole pamphlet stitch with twine to bind this. But I need to sew that hinge on first. It's very easy to do a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. I am going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to quickly run to the sewing machine. Here we are. Just going to take off that little thread. I just wanted this hinge to be as tall as the book, so that's why it's like that. So I'm going to hold this, hold that in there. Oh, okay. Let's position this fabric right at the top and at the bottom, and then we're going to center all of the pages in here. So it sits perfectly like this. Our center page is here. I'm getting a foam stamping mat. And can I use 6 inches? Yeah, 6 is a nice even number. So 6 inches. Let's take the center. Let's find the center of this signature. So let's take an awl. I just use a jewelry awl. And this, I'm piercing a hole in the center. Oops. There we are. All the way through. And because I know I am going to stick my needle 2 times in there, in and out, with 2 different threads. This is a wider awl. You can see that the shaft is wider. And I use that for my center hole because there's going to be 2 pieces of twine going through there. So if that's the center, let's go from center. Let's go 3 inches to the left. Wow, look at that. I actually got it right on the center line. Okay, now from center again, we're going to go 3 inches the other way. Oh, look at that, right on center. Okay, I'm going to leave that in there for now. I have another awl, so I'm going to tuck this in here as well. So I'm using twine because I like the way that looks, and I'm just going to cut myself a piece that is the height of my cover. That's 1 time, 2 heights, 3 heights, and for good luck, I'm going to go 4 heights. Then I'm going to find my needle. This must be a dull needle. It's not that sharp, but it has a very large eye. And for me, that is good because it goes very easily in through there. I am going to have my tie on the outside of my journal. So I am going to start from the outside of my journal, going to the inside. And I want to leave myself let's leave 6 inches from the bottom of my journal and pulling tight. I'm going to take out this awl and I'm going to go with my needle through my journal to the outside. Make sure my twine is tight. Sometimes these fingers just don't work. Let's take out this awl. And from the outside, you're going back in, making sure it's tight, and back into the center hole to the outside, but do not pierce the twine. You're going to go beside it and not pierce it and pull it through. So we're going to pull. We want to make sure that we have 2 twine ends. I want to make sure that each end is on one side of the twine. Let's see, we're nice and tight. Lay it down, and I'm going to tie a knot. I'm going to tie a second knot. I'm going to tie a bow. take my bow ends and I'm going to tie a knot. These two extra ends are going to be cut as the height of my first hole and the height of that hole. So this I'm going to discard. And this is our beautiful writing journal. I'm going to think on whether I want to put a screw brad in here as an accent or whether I'm just going to glue it down. So I'm not sure right now because it's always a process. And I know I'm going to be decorating just the edges of the plain pages. That will be later after we see how much paper we have left over. We do that with our leftovers. So I love the way this is turning out. And let's grab our, you see I use elastics to just temporarily hold things in place. Okay, and I just want to show you, this is where the detachable journal will be. It will be attached in here. So this cannot be floppy. It has to be either sewn down, glued down. Let's glue him down. Why it's a him, I don't know. Glue. Can you see where I'm putting glue? Yes, you can. Let's see where I want it. I'm going to put glue all... I'm going to put glue all the way down. Why not? All the way down there. And I guess since we're actually gluing this down, there's no reason why we can't do this. Okay. Totally glued down. Let's put that down. Oh, I like that. I'm going to use 2 small alligator clips just to help it set. Hold it while it sets. Oops. Bend these back to give it additional little strength. Okay, I love how that looks. I think that's beautiful. Very, very nice. So our removable writing journal, which is not decorated yet, and it's only slightly going to be decorated, will be a removable writing journal in here. Gosh, that's nice. And this side, we will have a, this is just my prototype that I will be building with you. Oh, and this is a not embellished, just a precedent for me to create the folio in. So off I go to get this prepared to put inside of here. So I love how this is looking, and we will be back shortly to continue working on it.